The Attorney General has sent his opinion on presidential reference for the removal of Justice AK Ganguly as head of West Bengal's Human Rights Commission. Sunil Prabhu joining us at this point for more. Sunil, what more are you hearing?
Well, the Attorney General has given his advice after the opinion was asked by the Law Ministry on the request of the Home Ministry, and he says it's a fit case for taking action. There's enough material evidence to proceed against Justice Ganguly. Now, of course, the ball goes back to the Home Ministry to prepare a cabinet note for a presidential reference, and only after the approval of the cabinet, because of a recent Supreme Court judgment, that norm will be followed, and then it will go to the President of India for his final approval to refer it to the Supreme Court to decide on this matter, because they have already said prima facie they find the substance of what has happened and those allegations made by the intern have certain merits.
All right, Sunil, thanks for joining us. Sunil earlier also spoke to former Speaker Somnath Chatterjee, who said he believes there is a travesty of justice taking place in the case of Justice Ganguly. He also goes on to say that the government's own law officers stand exposed.
Here there is a trial by media, trial by suspicion, and the extraordinary step has been taken by the Supreme Court of India, with all respect to the learned judges, of forming a sort of administrative committee to go into the matter with the senior most judges, and without giving a copy of the affidavit as it appears to the learned judge concerned, to coming to even a prima facie conclusion, knowing that there may be a case where the matter may come before the Supreme Court under Section 23 of the relevant Act. Then if the attempt is made to send the matter to the same Supreme Court, according to me, with all respect and humility, I submit it to be a travesty of justice and deliberate denial of justice. A body of the senior most judges have held something without giving a copy to the learned judge concerned. I still treat him as a learned judge because he has not yet been found guilty. And then when there is a provision that if somebody is guilty of an heinous offence like this, he should be convicted and punished before he can be removed. Now a procedure is being tried to be followed. And my humble submission, with all humility I may be, I believe here I am right. Look at the conduct of the Additional Solicitor General. She gets a copy of the affidavit which the judge complained against has not got. Where did she get it from? That the government has burnt its boats by allowing its law officers to openly espouse a particular cause. I am respectfully submitting for consideration of all. Will in India in future, is it sufficient to make allegations to hold somebody guilty?
Well, NDTV has now also accessed details of the Supreme Court panel's report on the sexual harassment charge against Justice Ganguly. In his statement, Justice Ganguly had said he strongly denied the charge of sexual harassment, but then also argued that the Supreme Court's panel had no jurisdiction. He said the alleged incident took place in December when the Sexual Harassment Act had not yet been enacted. He also argued the Vishakha guidelines did not apply in this case.
Good morning, sir.
As time is running out for Justice AK Ganguly to remain head of the West Bengal Human Rights Commission, NDTV has accessed the 9-page report of the Supreme Court panel on the intern's allegations against Justice Ganguly. The report talks about the intern's deposition and Justice Ganguly's denial and is likely to be part of the presidential reference against Ganguly. Justice Ganguly told the panel, "The alleged incident, which is strongly denied by me, took place in December when Sexual Harassment Act was not enacted. The Vishakha guidelines are applicable to workplaces, but the Honorable Court is not the workplace of either the intern or judge who retired." As voices get louder day by day for Justice Ganguly's resignation, the report has raised further questions by questioning the jurisdiction of the panel and by arguing that the sexual harassment law was not in force at the time of the alleged incident in December. Did Justice Ganguly in fact bank on technicalities?
जजों की छवि को धूमिल करने से बेहतर होगा कि वो ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन में बंगाल में जो हेड कर रहे हैं उससे वो इस्तीफा दे दें।
जरूर प्राइमा फेसी कुछ सेक्सुअल मिसकॉन्डक्ट था और इसी के वजह से मेरे ख्याल में जस्टिस गांगुली को इस्तीफा देना चाहिए। ये टेक्निकलिटीज पर और रहना नहीं चाहिए, ये शोभा नहीं देता है।
But Justice Ganguly is holding on to his defense.
I was asked to go through the affidavit and respond immediately. I was not given the affidavit in advance. Though I asked for it, I was denied.
The government getting ready to remove Justice Ganguly legally through presidential reference.
We've sent that opinion for the Attorney General, to the Attorney General for his opinion. And once that opinion is rendered, we will send the file back to the Home Ministry.
Next week will be very crucial for Justice AK Ganguly. Law Ministry will be finalizing presidential reference for his removal as the head of West Bengal Human Rights Commission. Then it will be sent to the Cabinet. Once the Cabinet approves, then it will be sent to the President and then to the Supreme Court for its opinion. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan for NDTV.
Joining us tonight, KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Bikash Bhattacharya, Senior Advocate and President of the All India Lawyers Union, Albina Shakil, social activist, joining us here in the studio tonight. We're also being joined by the General Secretary of the Trinamool Congress, Mohua Moitra. But KTS Tulsi, let me begin with you. When you see the statement that Justice Ganguly made to the Supreme Court's panel, where he says even if the alleged incident were true, the law doesn't apply in this case. The Sexual Harassment Act was not enacted at the time. The Vishaka guidelines do not apply. Is this just legal sophistry?
It's not legal sophistry. It's a question of no one can be tried except in accordance with law. That's the constitutional right of every citizen of India under Article 21. And if the law has been laid down, then Justice Ganguly is as much entitled to take refuge behind that law. Why not?
Albina Shakil, we've heard the Attorney General's opinion also now. He feels this is a fit case in a sense for further action, that there is a fit case for presidential reference. However, we're also continuing to hear these very strong counter voices which seem to argue that that justice hasn't been done. We've also heard the argument that a copy of the affidavit was not given to Justice Ganguly in advance, and without that, in a sense, he's in a position where justice hasn't been done to him.
You see, I think Justice Ganguly, if now he's talking about affidavit, fine, affidavit has to be given to him. He has to know what the charge against him is. But I think he approached the Supreme Court panel by just questioning the locus standi of the Supreme Court Inquiry Committee. So I don't think he has any case for now arguing victimhood, that he was, because he didn't go into the substantive elements of responding to the charges against him. He just said the law does not apply to him. They are not empowered to inquire into him. He had already retired. He was not a worker there. The intern was his private worker. She was not in employment of the Supreme Court. So how could they inquire into him? Now, Supreme Court still found a prima facie case against him. My question today is two questions. Number one, that if it is Justice Ganguly's own contention that the civil law does not apply to him, then why were criminal proceedings and FIR was lodged? Why were they not initiated against him? What is the police doing? And two, that it's a question of propriety, whether a person who is prima facie found to be in violation of human rights, should he occupy such a high office? And I think the Attorney General has already given his opinion. And as per the presidential reference, now the Supreme Court should be empowered to go for a full-fledged inquiry against him, or the criminal proceeding should find him guilty, in which case also he'll have to step down. But I think it's very disconcerting for us younger people to listen to older people, highly respected people like Mr. Somnath Chatterjee and others. I think it's a huge generation gap, and the sooner they realize that on cases of, charges of sexual harassment, when they talk like this, really resorting to technicalities, not talking on the substance of the case, it's very disappointing.
Okay. Bikash Bhattacharya, would stepping down from the West Bengal Human Rights Panel in this case for Justice Ganguly just have been the more graceful alternative? Is he not just dragging this process and in effect damaging his own reputation in the process?
In my opinion, this sort of allegations is the ground for seeking resignation of a person like Justice Ganguly or similar persons who are holding the chairman of Human Rights Commission post. Then there will be no end to this in the country. The allegations which are leveled against him, that needs to be gone into, that needs to be scrutinized. If ultimately there is some substance in the allegation, if at all, then law should take its own course. We are trying to avoid the legal panels, legal authorities, and we are trying to impress upon the people in a way that somebody has been alleged of something by someone, without taking responsibility to take logical conclusion to that, and he should resign. That will create a very bad precedent for the Indian democracy.
Mr. Vikas Bhattacharya, could I ask you one question? Are you taking this position because in the politics of West Bengal, CPM has to be 180 degrees opposed to Trinamool Congress, or are you taking this position based on substantive issues?
I am taking this position being a student of Constitution, as a constitutional lawyer, and the...
Do you think criminal law applies to him? Do you think the criminal law applies to him? Do you think the criminal law applies to him if civil law doesn't?
Yes, of course. If the intern has anything to do, she should have taken it to the police, file an FIR, and there should have a logical
FIR is already in place. You should be demanding that the police should proceed against him. Why is that not your demand?
There is no such FIR, so far my knowledge goes.
There is an FIR. You should please
no such FIR.
Improve your knowledge.
The FIR has not lodged by the intern as yet. That's my information.
No, but the police has filed
Let me just bring the Trinamool in at this point. Does the Trinamool in effect feel that the credibility of an institution has also been compromised at this point, the West Bengal Human Rights Commission?
That's the counterpoint. The credibility of an institution is sought to be maligned by this process.